Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Nova, and this is going to be my progress check for the first quarter of the year. So in case you haven't seen my intro video, the reason I started this channel was because I had a quarter life crisis and I decided I had to lock in. So this channel is a way to keep myself accountable and document my journey to becoming better. So first I want to go over the pages in my planner. Also, I'll be looking at my iPad for reference. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm doing. So the planner I made at the beginning of the year, my 2026 digital planner, had initially 5 different page setups. So the first one was my goals page, which I'll be putting all of these somewhere on the screen for reference. But my goals page, where I listed my 3 resolutions for 2026 and why I wanted to do them and concrete steps I would take to get to them. And I'm gonna talk about my progress on those later on. Next up, I had my 2026 bingo board, which I will also be talking about later on. And then I had my daily planner that I filled out every morning with my mood, how much sleep I got, one thing I'm grateful for, and then my schedule and to-do list. And then I had initially 2 habit trackers, one for taking my meds and one for doing my daily plan, my daily check-ins. And then lastly, I had a dopamine menu. So after I began actually doing things, I realized that the pages in my planner weren't enough to fully support me. So I ended up adding 4 different pages. I might still add more in the future. And these pages were my reset tasks that needed to be done throughout the week, which I have a video on also, and my reset video. And then I also added a monthly plan, a weekly schedule, and more habit trackers. I added 3 additional habit trackers, which are learning Japanese, because that's something I want to do, exercising, because that's something I need to work on, and studying Wicca, which is part of my personal curriculum. So the first thing I want to talk about is my goals. So I've been doing very good on my goal to be more mindful. I've been doing everything on the list, which all of my concrete steps, which are doing daily check-ins. Been doing that, been doing amazing at that. I need to get a little better at doing them earlier in the day, but you know, I'm doing good. And then one of my goals was to attempt journaling. Absolutely did that. I've been journaling weekly now. It's actually quite nice. I just had to make my own journal with questions I actually liked, although I do use a template for my weekly journal. And then I regularly look at my goals. Once a week I look at my goals and do a little goal check-in, and then I deep clean my space at the beginning of every week. So being more mindful has worked out very well, and it helps a lot to do the goal check-in, because when I read the reason for why I wanted to do that goal, it helps re-motivate me when my motivation starts waning. My next goal for 2026 was to get more money, because I spend a lot and I'm trying to keep more money in my bank account for things I will enjoy for longer. So one of my steps was to get a job, and I did that. One of my other steps was to make a budget. I've also done that, so I've been doing good on those 2. Although I don't start my job until summer, so I've only kind of accomplished that step. I have not saved $1,000, which is one of the steps, but I'm getting there. And I do need to work on waiting 3 days for non-urgent purchases, because I'm very impulsive and I need to get better at not buying something I want as soon as I want it. But it's okay, because I recently downloaded an app to keep me accountable, and it like locks down all the apps where I make purchases. So I have to really think about if I want to buy something, and then it only opens the app for 5 minutes, so I have to shop with intention. And my last goal was to be more active, and I started off really good with this goal. One of the steps was to regularly go to the gym, which I was doing really well until I got sick a few weeks ago, and then I kind of never went back because it broke the routine. So I need to work on that and get back in the gym and start exercising more. I have been working towards doing my 25 crunches easily, so that's been going well. It's actually way easier than I thought, so I might increase it, but I'm not sure yet. And then I have not been regularly taking walks, which I also need to work on. But since it's getting warmer out, I think it'll be easier to do that, because it was a lot harder to take walks when it was -12 outside. So, and lastly, I did accomplish going to a gym event. I went to bar with one of my friends. I didn't know what bar was, and it was absolutely horrific. I thought I was gonna die on the spot, but you know. Now, to improve. I've been talking about how I've been trying to improve and accomplish the things I haven't been doing great on, but one of the things I also did to improve on all of these was my monthly plan, which is why I added that page, because on my monthly plan page, I have a section for monthly goals and like a monthly bucket list of things I want to accomplish. So for this month, my monthly goals were to do, one of them was to do 10 crunches easily, and another one was to do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster, which I did. Shocked myself with that one, I'm not gonna lie to you. And I also have like monthly projects I want to do. And my monthly bucket list this month, I only have 2 things left, although the end of March is nearing, which is to do a yoga class and then to try a cafe here on campus. But anything I don't accomplish on the bucket list will probably just get moved to the next month. And I've done a lot of stuff on the bucket list for this month, so that's nice. Okay, so next up, I want to talk about my 2026 bingo board. I have not gotten a bingo, but I have crossed off quite a few boxes considering where we are in the year. So I've crossed off 7 boxes on my bingo board, which is a 25 by 25 standard bingo board size. But on my bingo board, I got a job. I finished a crochet project recently. Even though it was a small project, it did kind of get me back into crocheting, which was the goal of having that box on here, so I'm gonna count it anyway. I turned 19, which was my little free space. I got a new piercing. My sister got me my second lobes for my birthday. And then I tried journaling, as I mentioned in the last section. I also went to a gym event, and I fixed my Notion personal home, which I might do a tour of at some point. I don't know, I might do a Notion tour, but also I might not, so we'll see. But yes, so that was my bingo board. I also want to talk about my daily check-ins, which have been going good, and it's nice to be able to see like the trends and things. Although I have noticed recently, as I've gotten farther into the year and my motivation is kind of waning a little bit, there has been like a dip in my mood a bit, although it is going back up after spring break. I think I just needed time to reset. I've also been sleeping a little less. My sleep schedule got a little bit destabilized, but I'm getting it back. I also, on my daily planner, started color coding like my schedule based on what I did, what I skipped. Like if I skip a class, I highlight it red instead of the purple I use for everything I've done. And if it's something that was like canceled, I highlight it in like a green, just to really help myself understand what things I tend to be skipping, and keep myself on track and accountable. I will say I need to get back to doing my daily check-ins earlier, because at the beginning of the year, I was home from school, so I would just do them in the mornings right after I got ready. But in here at school, when I got back, I started doing them while I was eating breakfast in the dining hall. But recently, since my sleep schedule's been a bit messed up, I haven't had the time to do them in the morning, so I end up doing them like after my first class, which makes it a lot less helpful because the point is to plan out my day, and it's kind of hard to plan out my day when I start in the middle with the planning, so I need to get back at doing them earlier. Okay, next up is journaling. So I tried journaling a lot in the past and I didn't enjoy it. I'm simply not a brain dump person, and I thought that just made it like journaling wasn't for me. But I wanted to genuinely try to enjoy journaling this year. So I did a lot of looking and I found a weekly journal. I don't remember who it's by, but I'll put it somewhere on the screen. And it's for Notion, and it is very helpful to me because I do it on Saturdays and Sundays if I don't have time on Saturday, but it has sections where you talk about your goals for the upcoming week, talk about how you would describe the last week in a few words, what were the wins of last week, what do you need to improve on, what are the highlights of next week, and it really helps me set my goals for what's next and what I need to work on for the next week, and it helps me reflect on the previous week and what was good, what was bad, what can I change to make it so that the next week is better. And it also helps energize me for the next week, especially the portion where I talk about the highlights of next week, because it helps make me feel excited about what's coming up and excited about what I have to do that week. So that was a really big change for me, and now I enjoy journaling. So next up are my habit trackers. I have been doing good at the daily check-ins and taking my meds. I don't think I've missed a day for either of those this year. However, the new habit trackers that I added, which were exercise, Japanese, and studying Wicca, I'm not doing the best at those, which is expected since I added the habit trackers because I wasn't doing the best at those. But in terms of learning Japanese, I was using Busu, which is a really good tool, but the constant ads and them trying to get me to pay all the time started to irritate me. And then I'm not a huge fan of systems with streaks, because when I lose my streak, it completely demotivates me and I feel like I have no reason to go back to it. So I lost my streak in Busu, and I kind of stopped working on Japanese for a while. But then I found a Japanese workbook that's used for elementary school kids. So I got the workbook, I downloaded the workbook, and I've been using that instead, and it's really helping me get back into it. So I've been doing a little bit better on that. Exercise, I just need to get back into the gym, like I mentioned, with my goals. Okay, so next up is my personal curriculum, which I've been doing okay on. So the goals I had for my personal curriculum was to learn more about spell components, learn more about tarot, learn more about pagan traditions, and learn more about the divine. So in order to make sure I'm actually doing these things, I also made assessments for myself. And my assessments were to write 30 spells, identify the meaning of all the major arcana from memory, celebrate 5 pagan holidays, and pick 2 new gods/goddesses. So as of right now, I have written 6 new spells and I have celebrated 2 pagan holidays. So that has been going good. I also, for the personal curriculum, had resources that I picked out, books, podcasts, YouTubers, like videos, all that kind of stuff that I wanted to watch and like take notes on to learn more. Kind of like my required reading list, like you would have in a typical course. So off of that, I finished The Modern Oracle by Lisa Boswell. I finished Kitchen Table Magic by Melissa Sainova, both of which I'll be reviewing and talking about in terms of how helpful they were to me and how enjoyable they were in my reading recap video that I'll be doing soon. And I also started watching The Green Witch on YouTube, and I'm currently reading Star Power by Vanessa Montgomery. I've also been reading poetry as spellcasting, but that's less about Wicca and more about poetry as a magic in the sense of liberating people. So I'm not really counting that as part of the personal curriculum, because that was something I wanted to read for fun. But things I've been doing in terms of application of these skills are I've been making spell patches, I've been making a lot of spell jars, which I've posted some of on my TikTok and Instagram. And then I also made a simmer pot for the spring equinox, and I've been redoing my altar every month and cleaning it every week to pick things that really match the energy of what I want to do that month. So now, the big question, has this been working? The answer is yes, absolutely. My quality of life has significantly increased and my emotional regulation has gotten a lot better, because in the past, I am bipolar, so I've had like horrible mood swings in the past, and I've had like very serious depressive episodes. So since starting this, I definitely feel much happier with my life, and I find myself being more regulated, and when bad things do happen, I'm able to like calm myself down, so that I don't like have a full meltdown or like blow up at people. I've also been a lot more productive. So I've had a lot more free time to do the things that I actually want to do, which in turn has made me less stressed and less burnt out, because I did suffer from gifted kid burnout for a long time, because it was always the expectation that I would do everything and be perfect all the time, and that was often to like my detriment, because I'd be so focused on doing everything and always being successful that I would often put my own personal needs second place to satisfying everybody else. And I felt like that was just, part of the game. Like everyone does this. But since I've started this new system, I've been so much more like calm. And one of the things I'm doing this semester also is to not do homework on weekends. And that also pushes me to be more productive during the week, because I know I have to finish everything by the weekend, which is also working really well, because then I have the weekend to just rest and reset, which is amazing, and also helps me like avoid burnout, because I have that time to rest and, take care of myself. So lastly, I want to talk about my goals for the upcoming quarter, which, oh my gosh, that'll be half of the year down. So my first goal is to exercise more, because I've been slacking on that. My second goal is to save more money, because even though I got a job, I have not much money in my account right now. So another thing is to work on my impulse control, especially when it comes to purchases, because like I said, I've still been spending money a lot, even though I don't really have much extra spend. Another thing is that I want to be able to communicate my emotions more, because even though my emotional regulation has gotten better, it's always been hard for me to tell people how I'm really feeling, because I'm very non-confrontational. I like to avoid conflict. So I need to get better at speaking up and advocating for myself in these upcoming months, because recently when I do that, it tends to have a better outcome. Even if a little, like some feathers get ruffled, it still overall is a net positive for me. So I'm gonna try to do that more in this upcoming quarter. And lastly, I need to learn to relax. When I initially started this and I had like a bunch of free time because I was being so much more productive during the week, I could not sit still. I would be like searching high and low for an assignment to do or a chapter of the book I hadn't read yet for class that would prepare me. And especially on the weekends when I like wasn't allowing myself to do homework, I would find anything I could to give myself something to do. And it wasn't until some of my friends were like, you don't have to do all of that. Like, you can just sit down, that I realized that like I never learned how to relax because that's not something I really had time to do. So I don't really know what that entails. So one of my goals for the upcoming quarter is to just relax, and learn how to just be okay with doing nothing and not being productive, because that is self-care sometimes. So recently I've been trying to just like find movies I want to watch, or like saving YouTube videos that I want to come back to later that like aren't self-care related at all, aren't related to bettering myself at all, and are purely just like silly and fun and don't require much thought. So yeah, that is all I have for this little check-in. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.